Chapter 14 Part 1, The Children of Ibrahim.
They began taking turns reading until they started getting sleepy. Please, an elderly man walks down towards them.
Don't be alarmed. Hearing the voice, everyone jumped up and looked at Wanyenyekevu. Wanyenyekevu smiled. He can't be a threat, I didn't see anything.
Jonathan then said, now he tells us, it has to be a threat. They watched the old man as he descends from the stairs.
No, I am not a threat,
said the old man. I had to see if you were, before I approached. I was uncertain about that one when he started stabbing into the air with the forks.
Pointing at Jonathan. Until you started reading the Torah.
We also read it, but it has us confused at times.
Jonathan shook his head. Not another one.
The old man continues, no disrespect, young man.
We saw you coming to town after you touched the froth.
The man pointed to some cameras hidden throughout the place. These are 16K infrared cameras, and they are placed throughout the city. We thought you would just pass on through, but when you came to this place, we worried for a bit. Anakitas nor Wakatilians are never seen together, and we were baffled.
Joe asked, froth?
Hold up. The old man walked down the steps. The froth is the rundown dome that covers the city, and yes,
Many stayed after the relocation, and as time passed, many of their children and their children's children left.
It was just a handful of us for a while, but now it's just my children and myself.
Come, let me introduce you to the rest. He takes them upstairs, to the elevators. Wanyenyekevu had never been on an elevator and had never been so high before. The elevators seemed to descend a bit before ascending, creating butterflies in his stomach.
In his mind, he counts the floors and watches through the clear glass elevator doors.
Jonathan looked at the old man, pointing to Wanyenyekevu. He ain't been nowhere before.
The old man said with a smile, neither have I.
Raising his eyebrows, Jonathan said, you have never left the city at all?
The old man shook his head and simply replied, no, I was born and raised right here in this city, my father and mother, and their mothers and fathers.
I will die here as well. Wanyenyekevu interrupts them. How high does this machine go up?
The old man smiles, 3,164 stories, but we share the entire 200th floor, the rest is empty.
Wanyenyekevu turns around, slowly counting the numbers on the elevator window, 165, 166. Jom grabs Wanyenyekevu by the shoulders, pointing to the horizon. Don't think about the height.
Look out at the beautiful sunset, the purple and orange sky, just beautiful.
Looking beyond the city and the landscape, yes, it's...
Wanyenyekevu starts to speak when a bell rings, and he starts looking around.
Joan laughs, see, we're here.
They exited the elevators and entered a large white room. At the end of the room were 3 hallways, one to the right, one to the left, and one directly ahead of them. Standing there in amazement in the center of the room with all smiles stood 6 people.
This is we?
Said Jonathan with great enthusiasm as he kept staring at one of the women standing there. Jom and Wanyenyekevu looked at each other and raised their eyebrows as he continued, how in the... Jonathan caught himself before he cursed, but he continued, how did you manage to live here all these years with just a handful of y'all?
Jom turned to Jonathan, just like we did. Jonathan stood there and just smiled. Jom whispered to Wanyenyekevu, the boy is acting strange.
Wanyenyekevu saw the young lady that Jonathan kept staring at. Well, she is beautiful. The old man walked out in front of them. These are my children, pointing to each one. This is Alpha Prime 8-3, Alpha Prime 8-4.
To your left, Alpha Prime 8-5, Alpha Prime 8-6.
And to the right of you there's Alpha Prime 8-7, Alpha Prime 8-8. And the little man here is Alpha Prime 16-6, and I'm Alpha Prime 8-1. Jonathan snapped out of it and returned to his normal self. Wait.
What the fuck? Alpha Prime dash. Hell, why not use point? Point 1, point 2. That shit is crazy as hell. Jom and Wanyenyekevu looked at him. What? Jonathan said as he continued, have you ever heard of someone named Alpha Prime dash and then some random ass number? Wanyenyekevu said, have you ever heard of someone named Wanyenyekevu? Jonathan said, but their names sound like nomenclatures. Hell. I don't care what you say, I ain't naming my child Alpha or motherfucking Omega.
Shaking his head with a smile, Jome said, please forgive the rudeness, again. As he punched Jonathan in the shoulder, he said,
my name is Jome, this is my little brother Jonathan, and this is our friend Wanyenyekevu. Jonathan shook his head, but I call him Wanya.
Wanyenyekevu smiled as he noticed Jome had finally pronounced his name right as Jonathan walked toward Alpha Prime 8-7, hi, I am John. Jome grabbed him by his collar before he could say another word and whispered in his ear.
Bring yo ass back here and act civil.
The youngest, Alpha Prime 16-6 said to them, why are you not Alpha or Beta or Pi?
Jonathan said, we wasn't born in no bubble, little man.
The old man smiled, excuse the little man, he's always filled with questions. Grabbing Alpha Prime 16-6 by the hand.
He's been with us since his mother died a few years back.
Please, there are many questions for all of us to ask, let's get some rest and talk in the morning. Walking toward the edge of the large room, he asked.
Do you prefer separated rooms or one room for all of you? Said Alpha Prime 8-1. Please, one room for us all. We do not want to put you out. Said Wanyenyekevu. Alpha Prime 8-1 held up his arms, we have the entire floor, in fact, the entire building.
There's no way you could, as you say, put us out.
They all laughed.
Entering an enormous room, there's nothing here.
Said Jonathan.
Please stand within this white square, said Alpha Prime 8-1 as he pointed down toward the square directly in front of the door's entrance. He continued as he started pressing buttons.
In this room, we have the jungle. Within a second, the entire room looked exactly like the jungle.
He continued pressing the buttons as the scenery changed. Desert, New York, Miami, the Wild West, the South.
Wanyenyekevu stopped him.
That's it, the South. The view reminded him of home. Walking outside the square, he touched the trees and bushes, then turned around with a smile toward Jome and Jonathan.
If it's okay with you two, and if y'all don't mind me enjoying a little taste of home.
Thinking, he took a deep breath as he continued, it's been a while.
I guess I'm homesick.
No problem, we need to look after the horses before we call it a night, though.
Said Jome.
Please, by all means, please bring them up.
Said Alpha Prime 8-1.
Wanyenyekevu had a funny feeling in his stomach. Jonathan laughed at Wanyenyekevu, seeing that he wanted nothing to do with that elevator again. I'll go, my friend.
Wanyenyekevu, raising his eyebrows, and whispered, my friend?
Something has him mesmerized. As he looked at Jome, they both smiled. Alpha Prime 8-3 and Alpha Prime 8-4 simultaneously shouted.
We will go help you. Alpha Prime 8-1 smiles. They haven't seen any animals other than the ones we created within here. Alpha Prime 8-4, eager to retrieve the horses, almost knocked down Jome, running toward the elevator and pushing the button. Alpha Prime 8-3 said to Alpha Prime 8-4, be careful, you almost knocked him over. He looked at Jome.
So sorry, she really loves horses.
Is it all right?
Jonathan quickly replied, yeah, of course, it's okay.
Standing in the elevator, Alpha Prime 8-4 looked at Jome. I'm sorry. As she demanded to Jonathan, let's go. As the elevator closed, Alpha Prime 8-6 asked Jome and Wanyenyekevu. Do you want a tent or a cabin?
I can even place a castle in here, handing Jome a remote. This is a real-time emulator, set the perimeters and time here, or you can set it to dissolve or even switch.
The conversation was too much for Wanyenyekevu as Jome started talking about what Wanyenyekevu calls Tik-Tok.
Wanyenyekevu walked toward Alpha Prime 8-1, Alpha Prime 8-5, and little Alpha Prime 16-6. We will be out of your hair first thing in the morning. I just wanted to thank you for the hospitality.
Alpha Prime 8-1 said, no problem, but I would like to ask a favor of you. Wanyenyekevu said, sure, what is it?
Alpha Prime 8-1 said, take my children with you.
Shocked, Wanyenyekevu said, why? I thought you were happy here.
Alpha Prime 8-1 replied, I'm 87 years old, and I'm just too old, and they need to live their life as normal as it can get for them.
This is not a life to live.
I had to get old to realize why my great-grandfather refused to join the others when they left. My children are mentally slow by at least 10 years, or how should I put it?
They are younger than they are. They are behind in everything.
I don't have long, and I want them to get away from here and have a normal life, but with someone safe and who won't take advantage of them.
Wanyenyekevu scratches his head. I'm heading west to Arizona, and Computans are not welcome, or shall I say, not expected to live that way.
It's dangerous, and I don't see how they can make it with me or anyone else at that. Alpha Prime 8-1 replied, I can change their clothes to be as close to Wakatilian as possible, and you can give them names. We have all kinds of self-defense instruments, applications, and equipment. All you need to say is that they are mentally ill children.
Wanyenyekevu interrupted, they are not really mentally ill, are they? I cannot lie, my friend.
Alpha Prime 8-1 interrupted Wanyenyekevu and said, Wanyenyekevu, you will not be lying, for in the real world, when it comes to reasoning, problem-solving, decision-making and their cognitive skills are lacking outside these walls. They would make it if the world were a computer. We both know that's not so. That's a mental disability to me because their entire world has been virtual, plus I'm dying and need your help to give my children a real life.
Grabbing Wanyenyekevu by the shoulder. I have a good feeling about you, my friend. Smiling, Wanyenyekevu said, in that case, it would be my pleasure. But now I need to ask you for a favor.
Alpha Prime 8-1 replied, sure, how can I help you?
Wanyenyekevu said in a reassuring voice.
You said you have Taurus. I need one for everyone, let's say 9 smaller ones, so we don't have to keep passing mine around. Alpha Prime 8-1 smiled out of relief, that's all.
Not even a problem. After everyone finally settled in for the night, Wanyenyekevu thought about the old man's request.
He did not speak to Joam or Jonathan about it but prayed to Sabaoth for hours before he fell asleep. Confused and worried about the situation, yet still hundreds of miles from his destination now, he's no longer alone but has 8 additional people, and neither one is Wakatilian. Here he is, with the people his people are trying to avoid.
What to name these people? Can they defend themselves? What will the Wakatilian nation think of them? Questions just flowed through Wanyenyekevu's head as he finally fell asleep. He hears a loud voice, behold, your most trustworthy warriors, who shall stand by your side and never forsake you, your army, your warriors of Sabaoth. Wanyenyekevu saw at least 50 Wakatilian warriors dressed in war paint and ready for battle.
Their names were called out as the voice introduced them: Joam, war chief; Jonathan and Elisha, intelligence and tech support warriors. Not noticing at first, he looked again. Elisha was Alpha Prime 8-6. Wanyenyekevu smiled and the voice continued, Elijah, a skilled scout.
It was Alpha Prime 8-3.
The names and faces continued. Grace, mercy, and joy, medical, surveillance warriors, and great hunters. It was the Alpha Prime daughters. The last names were called, and little Alpha Prime 18-6 stood alone: Daniel, the prophet of Sabaoth, and Obey, a great warrior of Sabaoth.
Wanyenyekevu said, Obey?
I have never seen his face before. The voice said, you will, very soon. Wanyenyekevu said to himself as he woke from sleep, and he still heard the voice as clear as when he was asleep. The voice was of Motsi, the messenger of Sabaoth. There will be 12, but for now, you must go to Caballo Lake. Everyone was still asleep in the digital cabin that Jonathan had made for them.
Walking outside to the hologram of Louisiana, Wanyenyekevu said to himself, it looks just like home, but where are the mosquitoes? Where's the smell of the morning dew? Where's the early morning cool breeze? As he walked around for a minute and observed the rest of the scenery, it's beautiful, but this is just an illusion of the truth. Grabbing his pen and pad, he wrote, can you explain? To all the scientists. Can you explain? Tell me how this world came to be? Telling me about this Big Bang Theory, that's silly. Saying we all came from apes that evolved into man. You talk like a fool, no matter how many years you went to school. Some things you have done, I totally disagree. I stand here, right here, now with the one. The Son. And he is with me. A copy of the original. Not bad, if I say so myself. Took centuries to duplicate, still didn't get it right. Then you say that you don't believe in God. Can you explain? To this, I do agree, you have gone astray. You are trying to change the planet's destiny. Cloning of people and animals, is it not, right? Can you explain? Chemical warfare to help win wars and destroys life. While you fight, you want to explain life. Tell us how to live a long life, just to destroy life. Can you explain? What kind of fool are you? A lot of things you're always trying to explain. Explain this. You said life was created by a single cell, if that's the case. Tell me, who gave life to that cell? Can you explain? How long will it take for you to believe? When you reach that place called hell? See the face of your maker, when it's too late. Yes. You might be able to predict the weather, but you're not always right. You say it's going to be sunny today, but look outside. Do you see the rain? Can you explain? Do you feel the pain? The wrath of the Almighty. I think you're the one. Going insane.